welcome back to another one of my videos. If you've clicked this, you already know what I'll be making, but I will be making a cake based off of the movie Alien from 1979, specifically a facehugger that is hatching from its egg, aka an ovomorph. Alien is probably one of, if not my favorite sci-fi movie. I know it definitely goes into horror territory, but yeah, when it comes to sci-fi, it's at the top. I actually did make an alien themed cake previously. It was one of my first cakes that I had ever made, and I thought it came out really great. Make sure to check it out. I'm pretty proud of the guy. I'm happy to say that I am going back to actual cake for this video. I know I have been making a lot of like Rice Krispie shapes covered in modeling chocolate. A lot of professional bakers would say that I'm cheating and being lazy because it's much easier to manipulate those materials than actual like layers of sponge cake and frosting. And this is honestly just for me and not anyone else, so who cares, right? And also I just tend to love snacking on Rice Krispie way more than I like snacking on cake. Sometimes you just get the urge to cut into a monster and see layers of cake, right? This one was on my mind for a while. I will say it's not the most original idea. If you Google or Pinterest alien themed cake, you'll see a bunch of these. I'm not trying to go for original. I just really want to make my own version of it. I just thought it looked really cool and really fun to do. If this were inspired by any specific alien movie in the franchise, I'd have to say the one from 1979, the very first one. Although I am kind of going with my own details with the egg. If you haven't seen it in a while, I would suggest you go back and rewatch it. If you've never seen it, you must turn off this video and definitely go watch it right away. I don't know if it's streaming on anything, but rent it. If you need to pay for it, it must be done. It's a timeless movie. It's crazy to think about how old it is because the cinematography, the special practical effects, everything about it feels so modern. Like if someone told me that they made this movie today, I'd probably believe them like 80%, but still. Also that computer is obviously not modern, but I digress. It's a beautiful movie, absolutely stunning. The art in it is just amazing. It's quite the experience. So all the alien creatures in all of the movies in the Alien franchise are pretty genital. The facehugger being no different. It has a very uniquely shaped mouth, I must say. It's meant to make you feel uncomfortable, and that's exactly what it does, and that's exactly why I'm making one. It's Giger. He was a biomechanical deviant in the best possible way. Actually, I attended a baby shower one time where one of the activities, you know how you have those little games, one of the activities was to design a little baby onesie. So they give you a blank white one and you just kind of draw on it with like fabric markers. And I knew that the expecting mother was really into hard sci-fi, so my brilliant mind thought, what a better thing to slap onto a baby onesie than a chest burster. And I did really take my time to tweak it to make sure that it didn't look so phallic. I look back on it and cringe a lot, but it actually came out really cute, and I wish I had a picture of it. I probably do somewhere. I might dig around, but I really liked it. But I cringe at the same time, but in the end, the expecting mom loved it, so that's really all that matters. Anyways, I bring that up because I am not gonna hold back on this cake when it comes to what it's shaped as, what it reminds you of. So enough talk, let's get started. Here I am with my mask and my beautiful Pee Wee Herman shirt. I got it off of this website called Feel So Good. You probably have heard of it, but I thought it was really cute, the Loners and Rebels Club. Anyways, let's get started with our sketch. I'm gonna say sorry right now that most of this footage of me sketching will be upside down because I just don't know what I'm doing. I promise I will work really hard to improve myself, but please bear with me for the first few minutes. I do a very light sketching because the only sketching pencils I honestly have are just really light. They don't come out very dark, which isn't camera friendly, but I just needed to work with pencil first before I hopped onto pen. I felt like this design was a little trickier because it was an egg shape, Anything that comes from nature that has a more perfect shape is always a challenge for me. Like I struggle a lot with goat horns, and yet I've done them 3 times. An egg is also tricky. On top of that, I feel like Alien is a great mixture of natural and the unnatural. So it looks like an insect. It looks like it would definitely exist, but there are mechanical elements to it, and that's really tricky, and that's what makes H.R. Giger an artistic genius. And so I'm just here doing my best, honestly. I inked it all out. I then planned on what colors I was going to be using. And now the cake making part. Pretty standard. I follow whatever the box tells me to do. This is a white cake mix, and to make it pure white, I would have to leave out the egg yolks, but I'm lazy and I also hate wasting egg yolks. I don't know when I would ever use them. Although I did make salted egg yolks one time to just grate as seasoning on top of things, and it was pretty amazing. And as you saw, I do like to sift the cake box mix because the sugar is really like granular and likes to clump, and I want to make sure that my food dye is evenly distributed and there's no like white marks after I baked it. I learned that the hard way. This is Jello. Actually, his real name is Jelly, but he's always curious when I'm cooking in the kitchen. He's a bit of a piggy. I have these 6-inch cake pans. I've used them many times, and yes, I have not baked actual cake in a while. I've just been cheating and using Rice Krispie treats and wire. So I prep my cake pans with both oil and parchment paper to ensure that there's no sticking. The cake mixture is pink, kind of like a fleshy color, not a vibrant pink, something you would expect to see in nature somewhat. And I do my best to evenly distribute the batter into all the pans. I will say I had to use 2 boxes of cake mix to use this. When you're not using oil in the batter, the cake doesn't rise very much, and I did need that height to make the actual egg. And here they are, all fresh out of the oven. Now I just have to pop them out of the mold and hope that they had all come out okay. So here are all the completed cakes, like just the sponge part. As you can see, it's 3 layers, and I already shaved off like the domed burnt part, not burnt, but like domed brown part. I realize I think I only need 3 layers because this is the bulk of the egg, and then the flaps that open out will go on top. So I made 4 layers, and I didn't need the fourth one. Here are all the scraps as well as that fourth layer. As you can see, it kind of has like a deformity in the middle, and that's because most likely of the heat distribution in my crappy oven. This is that fourth cake that I had put in the oven, and I didn't put enough oil in the pan, so you can see that it's not perfect looking. It's looking a little ragged, but that's okay because I'm thinking I'm just gonna shave off the sides when I'm sculpting, and I prefer to use one that has a more clean inside, like a flat surface, rather than this not so pretty looking one. I'm saving onto these in case I want to use some of it to flesh out the rest of the cake. And also, I can just always pop this in the freezer and just snack on it for like the next year or so. Okay. The frosting I've used is actually a big old batch of frosting I had frozen forever ago, and it did not go bad. I realized when I had originally made this frosting, it was pretty thick and hard to spread, even when it was at room temp, so I made sure to add some milk. Problem is that I added a little too much milk, and now it's spreading like sour cream, which is not great in terms of stability. It's just a little bit too runny. Because the cake layers are thick, you do want like a thick layer of frosting to kind of break it up and just have a better ratio of frosting to cake. And unfortunately, I couldn't pull it off with this one, but that's okay. As long as it wasn't falling apart, I was doing just fine. I am now carving out the basic egg shape, making sure to scoop out the very top so that it has that opening. There is a base where I thought like all those wormy bits would be coming out of, like all the, I don't know if you'd call them like veins that are running up to the egg, and like how the queen is like feeding her little baby children. But I ended up actually eliminating that, and you'll see that later on. You can kind of see that the middle part is a bit stout, and so to eliminate that stoutness, I just got rid of that bottom layer entirely and made the whole, besides the opening, the whole thing the actual egg body. And now on to modeling chocolate. As always, a mixture of meltables, candy melts, and corn syrup. It is a 4:1 ratio, where the 1 is a corn syrup. Heat it all in the microwave and then pour it onto sheets of aluminum foil to then cool. It's a very long process, but this is a perfect time to catch up on your true crime documentaries. So as you saw, the colors I had originally made are pretty standard. They're just straight out of the bag. So that means that I have to mix a lot of different colors in order to get the shades that I actually want, because of course the Facehugger is not pure pink and the Ovomorph egg isn't pure black. So that means that I have to mix multiple colors together to get the actual shades that I want. And I will say it is definitely a hand workout, and I say that every video, but I'm just gonna keep saying it again because it's a lot of effort. So all that mixing, and I came out with gray. Like on camera it reads very gray, in person it reads very gray too. So that was a bit of a fail. The color I was referencing, like you could really see, like obviously it was a gray tone, but you could really see the browns and you can really see the greens that gave it more of like an interesting look. The more I mixed these colors, the grayer it got. There was just no turning back. I think, you know, sometimes when you have particular materials, they do okay with color mixing, but you can't get too intricate with it. But that's okay. I wasn't fretting it too much. I think I was just kind of regretting how much kneading, like how many hours of kneading I had done. But all of that gets fixed in the end anyways, because what really brings the whole cake to life is really the painting. Any colors I lay down in modeling chocolate is only the base coat, and that's exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm doing a very thin layer of that green Ovomorph color, and that'll just be the very base, and then I'll be laying all these extra textures on top, and that's what you're seeing here, where I'm laying down just thin sheets of this Ovomorph gray. It's just the base, and then I'll be adding all the like actual sculpted interesting stuff that makes it actually look like an egg on top of this base coat, adding pink to the very top of where that opening is going to be. Then I took a break from all that modeling chocolate and decided to make the Facehugger armature. This is pretty standard armature wire that you can buy at Michael's. You probably don't want to eat whatever is touching the wire, disclaimer, but this is the easiest stuff for me to use, and it's just me and my husband eating little bits of cake at home, to be honest, to be transparent. But yeah, as always, I was working and cutting the armature wire, trying to mold it with my hands, and my fingers started hurting because I don't know what I'm doing until I found these. I think they're actually meant for kind of twisting and bending wire, these pliers, and they were so much easier to use, even though my fingers hurt and probably had little microscopic shards of metal in it. It was a very welcome tool to have. Okay, now you can see that I'm starting to lay on basic shapes on top of the base, and they are not sitting flush against the cake. So it's going to look a bit crazy for quite a while, and I had to do a lot of layering. I had to do a lot of shaving to give it that egg-like shape. Because right now it kind of looks like someone's trying to make a flower vase off of wet concrete, right? So you might be freaking out saying that's not what it looks like at all. Rest assured, I am also completely freaking out knowing that that's not what I wanted either. But you just gotta trust that process. There are so many different versions of the Ovomorph egg, and I kind of like Frankensteined a bunch of different pictures I had seen. A lot of them do have these like circular oval shapes on the perimeter, or the perimeter, and I did want to, like, when I see that, I was just like, okay, that's what makes it look more otherworldly, so let's keep that shape. And here I am. It's a little hard to tell from that angle, but you can see here I'm kind of adding like that spinal cord look. This is classic H.R. Giger. I definitely wanted to make sure that I had shown tribute to the original artist in some way, even though I have a very measly sad copy, interpretation, fraudulent approach to making one of my own. But I feel like that's what makes Alien, the xenomorphs, the Facehugger, that's how they stand out from the original design. So I wanted to make sure to include that as well. And making spinal cords are tricky or just that pattern, but I do find them really enjoyable despite how tedious they are. Now I'm working on the opening of the egg. I kind of like to feel like it's like this mouth beak part of the actual cake, using a lighter pink to transition from the inside to the outside of the lips. This is also when I started to feel a lot better about my cake because I'm really starting to build out those points. When before it looked like a concrete flower pot, it is finally turning into an alien egg. I'm also adding these stringy parts to the inside. It's kind of like, you know, when you lift your tongue and you have that tissue that connects your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. I feel like that's the kind of look that the Ovomorph egg is giving. It's flesh that's stretching open for the Facehugger to pop out of, and so I wanted to make sure to give it that same look. And now taking a break from the egg and hopping into the Facehugger. So just like the egg, I have to do a base coat. I'll do it in the same color that I'll use to actually flesh him out, but I just want to start with something very simple to start working off of. I feel like it's looking a little bit Tim Burton-y at this point. I actually stuck the wire into a giant block of modeling chocolate. It was just really hard to like keep him standing and to be able to work at him at the same time. He was wiggling around a lot. So yeah, now you can see here that I'm actually fleshing him out, giving him those little like weird flappy wing things he has. I like to call them his jowls, but that's probably not accurate. As I build, I'll slowly try to put in the details. This process took a lot longer than I thought, but that's usually how it is. And I also wanted to make sure to really take my time with this project because I felt like the last sculpture I did, which was the original Evil Dead cellar dwelling deadite, that was right before I had to go on vacation first world problems, but I totally rushed it and I kind of regret rushing it so much, but I wanted to really get her done before I left the country or left the mainland. And so I promised myself that the next project I do, I'll make sure to make every step count, to go back and erase if I didn't like something, to not just, deal with whatever I had done the first time, but to really make it so that I actually love it. I will say the Facehugger was a lot more enjoyable to work on than the egg. The egg is a simple shape. The Facehugger is a grotesque, spindly, ultra textured little beast, and those are the types of things that I love to sculpt the most. And then I went in and worked on the most notorious part of the Facehugger, the mouth, quote unquote the mouth. I'd say that this is probably my most graphic creature that I've worked on. I mean, I can't take credit for it, but it is pretty in your face. If you haven't checked out my spider crab Norris from The Thing, that was probably one of my top sculpts that I've ever done. And I would say that one is more graphic, but just the fact that this one is more, it's an alien that at least half of our population can relate to. And here he is, all sculpted out. I don't know why I'm referring to it as a he, I just will, whatever, anything goes. Here's the egg, and now I am about to actually insert the Facehugger into the actual body of the egg. Sounds way more scientific than it is. Sticking my tongue out because that helps with concentration, and I'm pretty happy with the proportions of it. Then I just had to make sure that the transition of the Facehugger's body going into the egg made somewhat sense, hiding any armature wire, hiding any of the bamboo stick that I had used. Also, I wanted to add some goo, that yellowish greenish goo. I'm not sure if it's the same material that the Xenomorph uses, like the spit that burns through like 10 floors. Final steps is painting it all in using a mixture of food dye and water. And here he is. Here I am actually cutting into the Ovomorph so that I can have a piece of cake. When I take it out, you can see the layers of the modeling chocolate. That's where like I had put those oval shapes where they didn't lay flush. I mean, I try to do my best to kind of make it seamless, but when you cut inside, you just can't escape the shortcomings, but that's okay. And that was my alien Facehugger Ovomorph egg cake. It's a mouthful, but I hope you enjoyed watching it. So this was my first venture back into cake after a couple of projects I've done, only because using just plain old modeling chocolate with armature wire is so much easier to work with compared to cake. Cake is pretty hard in terms of sculpting and covering and making sure that it doesn't turn into a giant mess. So it does, you know, it's quite a challenge, but it's definitely one I'm willing to take, and I kind of want to do it more often because I know it's just more exciting to work with cake than with like kind of just modeling chocolate. I'm glad I started back up with a simple shape. You know, the Ovomorph egg, it's very hard to mess that up. So my next cake is already in the works, and I'm actually about to bake it off as soon as I get off this video. And if you want a hint, I'm actually wearing some apparel that has to do with the project. It's not exactly this imagery, but I'm super excited about it, and I hope it's recognizable to anybody who's read the manga. I'm always trying to pump out as many videos as I can. So it's just hard sometimes because of work and life stuff, so I do want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes, who likes, who comments. It really means a lot. It seriously makes my day. This past weekend I actually went to Monsterpalooza, which is probably my most favorite convention I've ever been to. If you don't know what it is, you should definitely look it up if you're really into like monsters, horror, creature design. That is the place for you. So it's a lot of like horror movies, sci-fi movies, like a lot of stuff centered around that, a lot of stuff centered around like special effects, makeup effects. Tom Savini was there, which is like, he's just super legendary. So it was an amazing time. There's so many great artists and everybody's so friendly and kind because they're all from like the same nerdy little world. I got to see V. Neil too, which was really cool. And I think about like, maybe one day I can have my own stand. I don't know. But just being there is really motivating, and it makes you want to just get back home and get back to work. And so I'm trying to ride that energy right now. And so hopefully that means more videos. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.